What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Average Boys Podcast. It's your boy ChrisP, and I'm here with my host Trigger. What is up, my dude?
What's going on, man? Just hanging out. It's Audrey's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, dude, you got to tell her happy birthday for us, man.
Yeah, man, we will. We will.
That is so good, man. That's so good.
Yeah, my puppy just hanging out. This is a little old.
Oh, is that the new one?
Yeah.
That's your new puppy? Oh, man. What's his name?
Yeah. This is Pigeon, because man, she makes pigeon sounds.
Oh my god, that's so horrible. That's so horrible, dude.
Well,
so what's going on, man? How's been your week?
Pretty good, man. It's been a little bit slow, but there's been some stuff coming out for gaming and stuff like that, trying to stay on top of that. And then on top of that, there's the open world Steam sale that's going on. So I'm trying to hit that up. It's also like payday for me. So nice. Audrey's in it right now. She's like, dude, you got paid. I got paid. Like,
what do you mean by open world? Like, what is that? Like,
so like the open world games, like all open world games on Steam, if they have that tag of open world, they have like up to like 85% off on like
holy shit.
Like, all right, no shit. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is $8.
Oh, that is fantastic, dude. I need it, man. I haven't been able to play any of the Witcher games, and
is also $8.
Which one?
ESO, Elder Scrolls Online.
Nice, dude.
$8. Dude, Left 4 Dead 2 is $10 right now. Borderlands 2 is $5. The
man, dude,
anniversary.
Is this across the? You said it's across the markings. What like
yeah, man. So like Humble Bundle, Epic, like all that shit. Like right now on Epic, dude, you can pick up Breakpoint, Tom Clancy's Breakpoint for like no shit $8. Like $9.
I didn't get at that, man. Because I have a pretty good library on my Steam library, but I mean, you can never go wrong by getting a couple more extra games, dude.
Yeah, no.
You can never go wrong.
Yeah, never ever. Dude, yeah, man, I'm just like looking, dude. The Game of the Year edition for Witcher 3 is $10.
$10?
$10.
That is really good. Hey, did you get to see what is it? Horizon Zero Dawn?
Bro, I watched it at the office and it was the shit.
Fucking 14 minutes of gameplay and it looks fantastic, dude. Fantastic, man. I was super blown away by it. I'm a really, really big fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. I actually have the game like on my desk here next to me, the regular one, the original one.
I didn't know this, but did you know that the voice actor for Eloy is the same voice actor for Tiny Tina?
Yeah, it's the same voice actors. Yeah, I remember that from the very beginning. Yeah, they picked her up because they picked her up after Borderlands 2, I want to say. Yeah, they picked her up after it. She's such a great actress, dude. I am so fanboy for Aloy. So she is she's such a great heroine character. Dude, the whole Horizon Zero Dawn story is probably one of the most amazing stories I've played in a pretty long time. It was refreshing for it to see it on PlayStation 4, man.
So I follow this this gaming channel on YouTube called What Culture Gaming. And dude, it's super funny because like they were like, like weird plot points in video games. And I think their like number 3 entry happened to be from Horizon Zero Dawn. They were like, well, in Horizon Zero Dawn, to progress further in the game, you need a certain kind of clearance that only Eloy has. How is it that she has that clearance when no one else in the world does, and no one else in the company even knew that clearance existed? And
so the doctor that she's based on, she wrote the Gaia program. She created the Gaia program. The Gaia is kind of like this AI that was kind of like protected the world with all the robots and shit. It was like the most important AI program. Well, that program established, knowing that she was the only one that had that clearance. When the doctor died, when all the robots started taking over the world, she was like, well, we need that doctor back, so I'm going to go ahead and just clone the doctor. So she just cloned the doctor and she created Eloy. Like, that's pretty much how it all came. Like, even if the computer wasn't an AI, like, this world would have been fucked, dude. Because it would have never came to that conclusion.
And that was their plot point. They were like, but how would they have known to like circumvent all of that?
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it was because of the AI.
yeah, it was just like one of those like weird plot points that like was never really explained, but like it was a plot point that was needed to progress the story.
Yeah,
And
it's very weird the way that they implement it because it's they kind of like almost make you feel like the Gaia program has feelings,
yeah,
like it's sentient in a way that it kind of like formulates emotional content to human beings.
mm-hmm.
So that's why it kind of like when it kind of like hello Danny and Kyle, hey guys, it kind of felt like it almost made like a brash decision.
Yeah,
Because then once Gaia makes Alloy into a clone, then the program, the red one, I forgot the name of it, the bad one then takes over, and then Gaia's killed off. So then Alloy coming back has to turn Gaia back on. So like, it's such a weird, because that's why they even needed her to have that clearance, because she needed to restart Gaia. So it's almost like Gaia made a failsafe through the doctor who made a failsafe of herself.
Exactly.
That's why it's really like,
yeah, that's why it was like one of those like,
yo, and then to top it off, right? Hideo Kojima made Death Stranding.
yeah,
Death Stranding originally was supposed to be a Konami game.
yeah,
And then they had the big falling out because he kept asking for more money. And Konami was like, yo, we do not have the funds for this. We're just going to have to cut you. So then Kojima was kind of like this floating like movie or video game producer, right?
well, yeah,
Well, that
because
company,
before that, you know, like they were right in the middle of development for Silent Hill.
Yeah, PT.
Yeah, and you know, like, I mean, granted, you can't find that game anywhere now. Anywhere.
Yeah, it's really hard to. I mean, you can kind of like Reddit it.
Yeah, there's like unless you have it downloaded onto your system already, you can't find it.
Yeah, and then plus you had to like you had to remove your hard drive because they deleted it from people's online accounts too. Like if you had it like in your online storage, like you can't access it now. But what's cool is like, so what happened was when Kojima was floating and he was looking for a company, the company that created Horizon Zero Dawn gave him the engine. They were like, hey man, you know what? We know you're having trouble. Like, come to us and we'll help you. So there is a theory that the world that Death Stranding is inside of is the computer of that world. And it's the part where Alloy's on the outside connecting all the different servers together, and the Death Stranding video game is the inside the computer program working.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you'll see crossover like subjects, project parts like from the different video games inside each other. Because there is one of them in Horizon Zero Dawn where they find a carrier on the outside world. So like Alloy's going through one of the factories and she sees a dude wearing the exact same suit and having the spiders. Was that what it was? Webs, or what was the name of the company from Death Stranding?
I can't remember.
It's like spiders or something.
Oh, Bridges.
Yeah, Bridges. There you go. Like the guy has the patch, and she's like, "Wow, this is like a fossil from a long time ago." And then in Death Stranding, when you're in the world, you can actually buy assets and put like the big antenna dinosaurs that are in Horizon Zero Dawn in Death Stranding. So like I think it's such a cool thing, man. I think it's such a cool thing to have it to where both of those games coincide with each other, because one of them, Death Stranding, is a great horror style video game.
Dude, and then that's the weird thing, like it wasn't even really horror, it was more of just a thriller. Like so the reason that I say that, what's going on, dude? Shoot.
Hey, Dark Sage, if you have a question, just go ahead and put it, man. We'll answer it. That's no problem.
Yeah.
We'll answer it to our best of our knowledge.
Yeah, right. So for me, it was, like I said, it was more of a thriller because it wasn't that there was like a whole lot of shock value or anything like that for it, but for me it was like the all right, man, like if I do this, I have to start doing these things. Like like there were times that I would go out and I was like, yo, if I go out and I'm trying to get to this place, I have to carry this. There's no way that I'm gonna make it that far without carrying without this gear. No way. You know, and and then on top of that, like you were like, okay, like do I carry blood gear or do I carry non-lethal? Because am I gonna like encounter like bad guys, or am I going to encounter people from the beach?
Yeah,
So it was
good
kind of
point.
like one of those like give and takes. And so I had to, like, granted, there was a lot of like forethought and a lot of planning, which is a good thing, right? You always kind of want to, stay engaged with your game, but you want to stay engaged with it in a way that's going to make you like think about certain things that are like going on, and it just, granted, yeah, it kept me very engaged and I loved the game. Loved the game. My only problem is that I think Kojima is a self-entitled prick.
Oh, dude,
And
100%.
yeah,
100%. We knew that
and
from like Metal Gear Solid
I do not
3.
I do not like him as a person,
Yeah,
but I
he's a piece of shit.
love his games.
Yeah, I
Love
mean,
his games.
he suffers from the same concept of like the R. Kelly mentality from the Boondock Saints, which is like we know the guy can make really great music, but he peed on like a 15-year-old kid once.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's just a piece of shit person.
I had the same thing with Tim Lambesis from As I Lay Dying, dude. That guy tried to kill his wife, but I love his music.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things that just sometimes people are piece of shit people, even though they have an interesting like heart, man. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dark Sage put his question up and it says, I'm gonna go ahead and click it up because it's long.
Yeah.
I like historical video games like Call of Duty and
That's what
Battlefield
happened.
because they shine a light on events that happened. One thing I've always been curious about, and I mean this in a disrespectful way, would it be possible today for the industry to make games based on World War II where you play it from the perspective of an ordinary German soldier and add more human element to the access of World War II? I don't know. That's a really good question, man, because like, I mean, in the sense of history, like, of course, the German side has always been painted as this like villainous side for what they, for what Hitler did in World War II. But a lot of the people in Germany during that time just followed it. I think truly out of just fear of the propaganda. Like, I mean, for what it was worth, like the Germans were a strong, a strong military during that time in history. You also put over the years, I noticed all games set in World War II, you play as the Allies. And while yes, what happened was terrible, not all Germans were evil people. Yeah, that's the horde mentality, right? That's what I was kind of getting into. Like, it's kind of like, okay, so like in society nowadays, we are dealing with where you play it, who's a right and who's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to video games, there's a really weird saying. I'm really big. You can ask Triggs, man. You can ask anybody that comes to the show. I'm a big conspiracy guy. That's what always like. I always say that, dude, and Trig knows this. History is written by the victor, and whoever writes the history can make it seem as fantasy as they can. They can bestow all this different, that Hitler committed suicide rather than was given the opportunity to leave to Argentina, like a lot of people believe. Or like what was that dude? George Washington riding the Delaware with like his foot up like Captain Morgan on the boat the whole trip when he was probably like, sitting in a boat all scared and shit. Like there's this like there's this like fantasy of like what heroes look like in history. I believe 100% a video game can be made that way. But the reason why is because of what history is kind of endowed and kind of like embedded or like sewn into German history. It's very hard for the German culture of that time to save face, right? I guess you could say, Trigger.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is that like it's like I'm not just saying that it's just that, but when it comes to that, you're really wanting to play it from like the good guy perspective.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like it does kind of like like you said, fall in line with the whole the victor always writes history.
Mhm.
And while I completely agree with that, you know it, to like to try and like find that like small little nuance of like, okay, where do I exactly fall in line, or like how do I exactly incorporate a game where I'm playing as a German soldier?
Mhm.
without being a Nazi.
Well, I mean, yeah, because that goes with the aspect of like every person that was a Nazi at that time or part of the Nazi regime, were they 100% behind it? I think it would take like masterful writing of a story writing to make it make sense. Like that's the problem is how do you make it to where you have it to where you're playing a German Nazi of that time in a video game, killing American soldiers and doing bad things to the Jewish community of that time, and then kind of write it as this like, hey man, well I'm the hero now. Look at me, like feel for me. You know what I mean? It would have to be you'd have to kind of write or find historical documentation that has some kind of credibility to it, to where there was like, if not a small a faction of German soldiers who were like revolutionaries that were helping Jews or like American allies like escape or do something.
I mean, there was plenty of them.
Yeah, you would have to really do the research though, because that's where I feel like you could get away with it.
So I remember when I was in high school, we had a German exchange student, and I spoke to him, and he actually mentioned Nazi Germany, and he mentioned Hitler, and he was like, for all the bad that Hitler was, I will give him this. He saved Germany because Germany was one of the poorest countries in the world when World War II started. And by the end of it, they were flourishing. Or no, they were like really poor in the 30s. But when World War II started, I mean, they were flourishing. He did bring that country together. And then after that, he was like, Third Reich, time to go. And so he was like, I will give him that. He definitely helped the country. He was just a huge extremist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with that, like, I mean, if it wasn't for his push in technology, we wouldn't have been as close to like jet propulsion as we are now. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, from every, you can't always assume that from every bad comes bad, but there is some good that comes from it. But I feel like that's probably the only way you can get away with it. Okay, well, so Dark Sage also says,
yeah, I'm saying Germans were.
To be clear, I'm saying the Germans were good people, so we're horrible human beings who did things behind anything we can comprehend. But not all allies were what video games make them out to be. And from what I have read about the war, the ordinary German soldier had no idea or the war crimes or the horrific acts being done by the regime as a whole.
No, I'm aware of that.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, dude.
No, it was,
I get it.
It was only like the German SS that like completely knew, that like really knew what was going on. Like they were like, they were the absolute like favorite, of the Nazi party. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like in a sense, like, and I'm gonna state this right now. I am not at all defending the Nazi party.
No, that's not what we're doing. Like, yeah, that's not what we're doing. But, like, I don't think that anybody's gonna stand on that platform and be like, "Let me defend them." But I mean, I understand what Dark Sage is saying, though.
That there was, that there was a certain. I'm not gonna say like, I'll just say it. There's a certain ignorance about like some of the German soldiers that were like, we're not doing that. Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they were to go to Poland, they were like, that was like that when we got here.
I mean, it's 100%. I like it's 100% accurate what Dark Sage is saying, and I 100% know what he's trying to say. Where he's saying not all German soldiers were bad people, which is the overall gist of every war. When it goes to when the United States went to we're from the United States, we're from Texas. Actually, Trigger is a military. Yeah, he's a military vet. So it's one of those things. It's a very understanding. I'm talking from a civilian aspect, but it's almost like every question, like in the United States, like we look at our country as, of course, the greatest country in the world. Even with all the politics and all the shit that's going on right now, it's still in good shape. But other countries, I can guarantee, do not look at the United States the same way. Even our armies and our stuff over the years, like, people in Vietnam for probably a long time hated the United States.
So the Koreans.
Yeah, Koreans and everything. So with that, you know, not all Americans are good, not all Americans are bad. And we could say the same thing about people in the German army during World War II. When it comes to video games, it all determines on the creator, how the creator wants to coincide their ideals or their stories that they want to give out. Now, most of the video games that we talk about, most of the video games we talk about is, you know, we like our fantasy games more than all that stuff. Call of Duty, for what it's worth, um, they're okay video games, but nowadays those first person shooters are now moving over to battle royales. So a lot of it's even losing the stories that they've kind of like based themselves on. You look
Which
at the
is
Call of
super
Duty
shitty,
games.
dude. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
super shitty.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I fucking loved Modern Warfare story.
Oh, dude, definitely.
Loved it. But you know, like, and I even liked the fact that they were trying to go with like a small little prequel with, you know, the whole Captain Price thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, there we go. So Dark Sage says, see, I am from Russia originally.
Ooh.
Hey, well, thanks for watching, man. We appreciate it. I don't know where you're at now, but thank you for watching. And I know in many games people play as the Soviets, but a lot of war games do not portray the Russians as these communist loving people. Instead, you see them.
Yeah, but I would actually play a game like that where you're actually like someone like in the Axis powers just trying to survive what's
Just trying
going
to survive.
on. You know, like, sure, dude, I'd give that a go.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, a lot of people like we don't know where you're from right now, but like when it comes to us playing those world games, we don't look at them for history. Like I never look at World War video games for history. Like I'm a really, when it comes to war scenario games, I'm more into Battlefield. Like I love Battlefield storylines. Like they're just super, like they're clean. But for what it's worth, like I don't really look at video games for historical documentation. I guess going back to what, World at War? Do you remember that one? The Call of Duty World at War?
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, for what it's worth, like that one, I think it was just the fact that it had that actor. What was his name? The one from Phone Booth? The one that played Big Boss when they fucking canned
fucking Kiefer Sutherland.
Kiefer Sutherland was the voice actor for it. And I was more intrigued by him just being an actor in the game than it trying to explain to me history. So, like, I mean, for what it's worth, the opportunity to play the game and use the guns of that time, go around and shoot people, like that's kind of more what it's about rather than us getting actual history from it. But I do understand what you mean, but I would kind of leave that more on the person that's creating the story for the game. The best thing that I would tell you, dude, would be, you know, find someone who is actually out there trying to find or make a story about that part of the history, because that would be more of a person that would answer these type of questions. Because for us, it's one of those things like, do we wish it was different? Yeah, man. I personally wish they would make video games and not put actual historical situations in it, so that way it doesn't make it as weird and it's not offensive to anybody, because that's not cool. It's not cool to be a dick to people. But in the comedy world, we call that low-hanging fruit. And history-wise, the Nazi regime has always been the perfect villain, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah.
Like even in Marvel, like we look at the Red Skull and they use the Nazis as the perfect villain, right? For Captain America.
Pretty much.
I mean, and then you look at that superhero and he's like embedded in history now because of that storyline. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have even, I don't think it would have been as successful. So yeah, for what it's worth, Dark, I understand what you're saying. I don't like him to always paint this picture of people from the other countries as being villains, but for story writing, it's kind of like what we're kind of like embedded in our minds to automatically go to, and it's kind of, I feel like it just kind of coincides more on the storyteller. So that's my take on it. I really don't know how to say it another way. I've just never seen anybody try to take that stance on the video game making world. I mean, probably in regular stories and comics, I've seen someone take stands on that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like where you'll see like
but it's very, 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 very rare.
it's because it's just really, really hard to write stories like that. Because you can write yourself into a corner and then someone's gonna call you a sympathizer for that type of situation, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of like ruin your reputation. And in this world, reputation is probably the most valuable thing when it comes to entertainment. So you have to kind of be very, very careful
when it comes to the entertainment. Is
Yeah.
your reputation. I mean, you know, like you and I, you know, we have
guidelines.
you know, well, not just guidelines, but you know, like we have people that we reference specifically because of you know, their reputation. You know, Brian Michael Bendis, Jeff Johns, you know, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, you know, these guys who are very prominent, you know, writers and artists and you know in the comic book world that like even Hideo Kojima, as much as we fucking despise that guy as a person, he makes some great IPs. You know, but it's just one of those things where you know, like
Kyle it's saying, like Kyle just said right now. I don't think
he wants to make games where they're trying to humanize, you know, the Axis powers. You know,
I don't think companies would make big bucks trying to humanize Nazis, which I mean, it's kind of like but that's why I say it takes masterful writing, because if we think about it in that term, then it's super easy to fail. You know what I mean? You would need to have like really fantastic writing abilities to kind of to make it. I mean, because dude, look at it, man. Look at the way people felt about Thanos in Endgame. Like Thanos literally wiped out all the Asgards, all the Asgardians, all the Xandarians, then did the fucking snap and then killed off half of the universe, killed off half of the world and all this other stuff. And there were people that were out there were like, well, I mean, you're out of line, but you're not wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like Captain Falcon. So like, that's really masterful writing. There was a great setup to where it kind of, it did the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, where it was relatable to the villain.
Did you hear that they're writing 2?
Dude, we don't even start. We talked about this already. Don't even jab at me. We knew they were gonna do this.
I was like, what?
It's so garbage, dude.
I was like, man.
Look, for what it's worth, I mean, jumping off of this subject, again, Dark Sage, thank you. That question was a really, really great question. Indeed, hard to answer and very scary to answer too. Yeah, but man, nonetheless,
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I felt like I was walking on eggshells every time I was trying to answer something.
I mean, yeah, because it's a hard subject, but I mean, being that we're all adults, of course, and none of us are out there trying to say the Nazis were great people or whatever. Like that's the fucking worst thing ever. Fucking someone just video clips me. Right, ChrisP from the Average Boy says the Nazis.
Right, two amateur podcasters
just said the Nazis were great. No, man, it's one of those things. Like it's a really great question because it kind of makes it makes you wonder, man. It makes you wonder, can it work? And then you kind of correlate it. And dude, being a Batman fan and a Joker fan of all these years and knowing that the Joker is not a relatable character, and the reason why he's one of the scariest villains is because there's no way to understand him. Some director was kind of intrigued enough to say, hey, you know what? I want to make the Joker relatable.
You're fucking stupid.
Yeah, but he made it work, and people love that movie. The normies love that movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was like, yeah, exactly. The normies love that movie.
And the reason why they love that movie was because
he's just mentally
because they felt that he was relatable, and they figured something out that comic book readers for years haven't figured out. And that's the thing. It's not that we're trying to figure out anything in the Joker. You just can't.
Therapy. That's all it is.
For what it's worth, like I would kind of consider it like that. Like, how did this director guy make the Joker a good guy in people's eyes? Where like at the end of the movie, even though the Joker is known to kill like millions, apparently like the entire crowd outside was trying to get him out of a cop car and like crowd surf him because he was like the people's hero. All of a sudden,
their savior or some shit.
Yeah, dude, it was so weird. And now knowing that they're making a part 2, even fucking weirder, man. But thank you, Dark Sage. That was a really great question. So what else we got? So we know about the sale. Horizon Zero Dawn dropped a 14-minute trailer of their gameplay, and it looks awesome. Call of Duty, actually, that this guy Dark Sage from Twitch mentioned Call of Duty. They just dropped the 80s action hero. So right now you
Dude,
can
so I have some
you can be Rambo or
Oh,
and
John McClane.
Bruce Willis.
yeah,
And
John
what's even cooler is they
McClane.
actually have the tower from Bruce Willis's movie. What's it called? The
Nakatomi Tower.
yeah, the Takatomi Tower. They actually
Yeah.
have the tower, and you can like go into the tower. It's like a whole mission that you have to kind of like
Yeah,
you have
man.
to play through the. It's so good, dude. And you know what's even cooler is they have the air ducts.
Yeah, man, I heard.
They have the air ducts,
Yeah,
dude. They have
you
the air
can get
ducts.
the
I
air
was super
ducts.
blown away by that. And then, of course, if you do the plan, if you do the missions all the way through, the vault opens up and you can get some really cool some cool gear for the game. They do sell some cool weapons and some cool they do like the invisible gun and like Rambo does his like crossbow thing. But not only that, I heard that Call of Duty Cold War is going to making a Rambo survival game on its own.
Sick.
So like I heard they're going to be doing like this whole new like game style for the video game. So I'm really excited about that. Zombies added a new Outbreak Easter egg. I'm excited about that too. What else, man? I know that
More
there's
in
some other
video
stuff
game news. The Switch has all been but confirmed.
Oh, the Pro Switch, right?
Yeah, this.
Yo, so
yeah, the
tell
Switch
us
Pro.
what this is about. I know you were just mentioning that a little bit earlier. So
Yeah. So like there's been a lot of reports that saying that the alleged Switch Pro is not just going to be teased soon, but it's going to be teased or revealed or have its official announcement before E3, which is
Nice.
in like a few weeks.
yeah, I was gonna say E3 is about to happen in a couple weeks. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
and people are thinking that it very well might just be this weekend. And
wow.
yeah, they're like, I mean, they might just come out with it this weekend.
So what's gonna
and
be
this
so
is
cool
like-
about the Switch Pro?
So the Switch Pro, oh damn, I don't have my Switch with me.
Oh, I got mine. I got
yeah,
mine. I'll reach
so-
for mine.
yeah.
I got my Switch right here.
Okay, so your Switch, all right, kind of put it up towards the camera a little bit. All right, so you see how on yours the bezel, which is like the actual black part where the LCD and the end of the plastic touch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're going to expand that. Now they're going to make the screen bigger. So they're basically going to use the same outer hardware. So it's going to still use the same Joy-Cons, but it's going to be a stronger SoC, which is a system on a chip. It is going to be a better screen, a 720p OLED screen. The the technology that they're also using in it is NVIDIA's DLSS or direct learning super sampling, which basically means that they will take an image and upscale it to 4K, which in theory actually makes it look better than native 4K gaming. So you could actually take like the Switch Pros.
Trying to show you my camera. My camera's right there.
Yeah. So yeah, like,
you can see all my fucking
these new Switch Pros, you're going to be able to play games docked in 4K.
Yo, so like you were mentioning, so like this black line that's on the outside,
Yeah.
like it's not gonna be there. That's gonna be all screen now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more screen to it.
Damn, that is cool, dude. That is cool. I mean, it's super cool because like you look at the fucking Wii U remote and it's huge.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So you kind of like want your Switch to
Well,
be of that kind of like
So
genre.
actually, I did a little bit of research. So the research that I came into was that Nintendo didn't actually have a whole lot invested in the Switch because of the huge flop of the Wii U. They were like, okay, we're gonna put not brand new SoC chip in the Switch just in case it fails.
Oh wow.
Lo and behold, it is their best-selling console ever.
I mean, dude, for what
Now-
it's worth, like Nintendo's kind of failed like in the last couple of years when it comes to not with the Switch. The Switch is a little bit better, but I mean, you already know my stance on the Switch. I mean, for what it's worth, I just feel like the lack of video games for like more serious video games is a problem with the Switch. The console itself, genius as fuck.
For me, I don't have that problem because because there's a lot of ports for this game. Sorry, for the Switch. That I mean, there's a lot of serious games in that, like Dragon's Dogma, The Witcher, The Last Remnant. You're in June on June 10th. The entire Ninja Gaiden series is going to be on the Switch.
Oh, Ninja Gaiden 1 that was like super impossible to beat the training session.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is going to be.
Christ.
Yeah, the progenitor to like the Dark Souls games.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that one is going to be on
so
the Switch.
rough, man.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for anybody who buys Ninja Gaiden 1.
Dude, I'm gonna.
It's so fucking hard, man. Just the fucking tutorial level.
Yeah, I was a bitch.
It's so rough.
Yeah,
but
dude,
no, that's cool, man. That's cool. I mean, for you know what, one game that I've always wanted to come back, Tenchu. Tenchu Stealth Assassin. I think that would be a really great game for this.
A lot of people were like, "Bro, Tenchu was so good," and
it was a great game. It really was, man.
For me, I never got the appeal for it. Like, I was like, I loved the concept of the game. It was just that game that just didn't appeal to me. I'm not gonna knock that game because I never tried it, but it's one of those games, like, I'm glad that people like it, and you know what? Cool.
It was really cool because it was kind of like, for me, it was like the first taste of like a straight up good stealth game. And like, of course, during that time, the stealth games were always like these recent like Metal Gear or Siphon Filter like style games where you had like your Sam Fisher or your Solid Snake, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this one dealt with like just ninja stuff.
Yeah,
like ninjas all the way through. And then it came out with the second series, right? Ninja 2 and what is it? Tenchu Part 1, Tenchu Part 2, Tenchu Part 3. And in the later series, they had a versus mode. And the versus mode was legit. I've never seen, and again, like, I'm a big Metal Gear fan, and Metal Gear had its versus mode also. It's servers where you could play. And Tenchu was kicking that one's ass so bad, dude.
Yeah, dude, I really liked the versus mode for Sons of the Patriots.
Yeah. Oh, Sons of the Patriots?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about Peace Walker?
No, Sons of the Patriots. It had like a versus mode, like in its later like reiteration.
Yeah, later series.
Yeah, it had a versus mode. And you know what, man? I liked it. It was cool. It's not one of those where I'm like, bro, fucking I have to play that.
You know what really lacked on it is that there was never a jump.
Yeah.
It was always just a roll. But like Ninja Gaiden, the Tenchu series, they had a double jump. They had it where you can like double tap forward and jump, and he would do like a front flip super long and land.
Dude, when I have games where I can't jump, I start fucking losing.
I fucking freak out.
I'm like,
freak the fuck out.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, how do you get up on stuff?
Yeah. Like, okay, the Surge. That's a pretty linear game. Let me check it out, see if it's on it's on sale. Yeah, but because it's not exactly open world.
You know what? That anxiety you got with now jump, that was me during Overwatch with no run button.
Oh, yeah.
That fucked me up so hard, dude.
For me, it was that no aim. There's not an aim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that really messed me up, dude. Oh, the grappling hook mechanic for Tenchu was like legit. That's a good call, Kyle. That's a good call. You know what? There was just so many great things about it. Was a game before its time.
$12.
$12?
$12.
The Surge or what?
Yeah, it's $20, and bro, for $26.50. Oh, it is.
That's a pretty good call, man.
Yeah, you can get both of them.
Yo, but straight up, I want to say that because I believe that the game Psycho.
Oh yeah,
that was a really good precursor or a good like predecessor to Tenchu, but it was real serious though. Tenchu, what made it fun was like it still had its anime nature to it. Like the major villain in the thing was I forgot his name off. It started with an O, but Orochimaru, and he used to be like the Crow. But he had like he would fight with his bare hands and feet, and he just had metal, and he would just box Tenchu, and he was just throwing kick. Yeah, dude, it was so crazy. Dude, it was so crazy. It's super. Like, just check it out if you get an opportunity. If anybody's out there, look up Tenchu video gameplay and just watch the story. It's really, really fun. I really hope to God that they end up bringing Tenchu back. That would be one of my man. That's like the whole recap episode that we were doing about revamping video games.
Dude, and speaking of of stuff like that, I'm glad that they have Dark Souls on the Switch.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so I play it every so often. Right now, I'm actually going through Star Ocean right now, and because Star Ocean got like a pretty big like revamp from the original 1989 look, and I haven't played it since like 2004 when it came out in the PSP, or 2007 or some shit like that. And yeah, dude, I fucking love this game, and I played on my Switch. And like,
you know
I
what?
have
I'm
I have a
still
pretty big Switch library.
even with me. I'm still messing with Monster Hunter Rise. They did an update a couple weeks ago, and I'm still kind of messing with it.
Dude,
So
you and I gotta squad up, dude. I'm not very far in the game right now, but bro, I know what I'm doing.
Nice, very good.
For sure, I know what I'm doing.
I'm still like at a 5-star, 6-star, so I haven't even gotten up to the part where I even need the update yet. So,
What's your hunter rank at? Because I'm at 3, but I only need like 2 more like monsters to clear before I can go to 4.
No, it's the village stars. I'm at 5, and the
I think I'm at
hunting
5
stars. I'm
now.
at 6. So, but that's not even getting close to like the monsters that really matter, dude.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
once
no.
you get up to the regular rankings, like the real rankings, I think like
Yeah, the
GP
high
or
rank.
something.
Yeah,
Like that one was
high rank.
crazy. Kyle, my dude, put up. Dude, the combat was wild. The bonuses for getting assassinations was super cool, and learns the new techniques. The characters are both funny and kind of scary too. And I could see one game remade with modern tech, and I'd want it to be Tenchu Wrath of Heaven. Exactly. This guy knows, dude. Kyle knows. Diego, what's up, man? One of my homies from a long time ago, from high school, man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah, man. Wrath of Heaven was a really great story, man. That's like one of the, if I'm not mistaken, that was like part 2 or part 3. Actually, part 3, I think. That's the one that got a little bit more. The graphics were better. The storyline was a little bit more cleaner. They did it. They used a lot of the same assets from the first game, but yeah, Wrath of Heaven really got into that whole like dark ninja shit, which is really crazy. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Tenchu Wrath of Heaven. If you get the opportunity, look it up. I wonder if that's the one where they introduced the doctor with the needles. There was a doctor guy I used to use. He would just use acupuncture needles as his weapons, but all he did was like box like all the time. He's like, dude, you knew me since like elementary, dude. My brain doesn't work that far back, Diego. I just remember. I mean, of course, bro. I've known you for such a super long time. I hope you're doing good. But yeah, man. Overall, video game news has been pretty chill. Comic book news has been going pretty good. I know that we have. I haven't gotten into it yet, but I know the new Ninja Turtles got released.
Yeah,
the
man.
Heroes Reborn got dropped.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for all the stuff that's coming out. Heroes Reborn's looking pretty entertaining. I mean, Hyperion's in it, so I'm super excited already. And I know that just something that just happened is I just read it a little while ago that Deadpool is going to be in Heroes Reborn, and he's going to be one of those dudes that knows that it's all a lie.
No shit,
dude. But like, I think that's like, I mean, I guess they're going to go with the same aspect as like Wolverine's healing factor.
Yeah,
where like it heals his brain or whatever. But like Deadpool's probably like one of the only dudes you do not want to be out of the loop of something, because he will fuck everything up. Like, so with him knowing that it's a lie and that Agent Coulson's kind of like the dude in charge, and he was real close with Agent Coulson during Pleasantville and during the Captain Hydra series. Because remember, he was hired to kill Phil Coulson during the Captain Hydra comics. So Captain Hydra asked him to kill Phil Coulson. So he's been like super tight with Phil for like, man, years, dude. So for him to be the guy that knows like Phil Coulson's like, the president of the United States or whatever, he's in charge of the Squadron Supreme, and to know that the Avengers are missing and he's a part of it, dude, Deadpool's going to ruin everything in that comic book. That was like a super curveball for me, Trigger. Like, I didn't know they were going to bring in Deadpool in that situation, but
I didn't either. But like when I heard about it, I was like, I'm not at all fucking surprised.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. But
yeah,
it was like the least thing because like when they removed the Avengers your brain doesn't automatically put Deadpool in the mix of it.
No,
You're just kind of like, oh, it's Deadpool, like he's in his own realm or his own world or whatever.
yeah.
But like I didn't assume they were gonna automatically jump on him so fast.
Well, there was oh my god, I forget which story, where they needed Deadpool's help, but he would only help if they made him an Avenger.
Well, yeah,
And-
that was during Dark Avengers.
Yes,
That was during when Steve
Right.
Rogers wasn't in charge of the Avengers.
yeah.
Like Steve Rogers was kind of like, you know what, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, like you have the heart to be an Avenger, but he was
But it was
making the
Iron Man.
money.
Yeah, but it
He
was
was the
Iron
money
Man.
behind the Avengers.
Yeah, but it was Iron Man who was like, "No, you can't be an Avenger." And he was like, "All right, well then I'm not going to help you." And then like something happens, and he's like, "Seriously, dude, we need your help." And he's like, "Make me an Avenger." And they're like, "Fine, you're a fucking Avenger."
Fine, yeah.
And so he was like,
That's
"No,
so
I
funny.
want the card." And he was like, "I will make you a card when we fucking get back."
Is that the Hawkeye? Is that when he dresses up as Hawkeye?
No. I think
Or
he
is
like,
Jean
puts on a
Grey?
like he even puts on a jersey, and it's like it has the Avengers A on it. And I was like,
Hey, what's going on? Dude, there was one of them where he dresses up as he says he wants a uniform and he dresses up as Hawkeye, like the old purple with the fanning eyes
yeah.
and shit. And then there's another one where he dresses up as Jean Grey's Marvel girl.
with the
So that's really funny. So here we are. We're going back to actually something that's very close to this already. We're going to be jumping into the Marvel universe. So what do we got on Marvel news? Do we got anything on Marvel news right now? Loki's going to be coming out. What, like in 3 weeks, dude?
yeah, dude.
Man, I am super
Right around the
excited.
corner.
I am super excited.
Let me double check on that before
I want to say it's like June something, June 8th or June 9th. It's on a Wednesday now.
Yeah.
So the way we're going to be covering that is the show will come out on Wednesday. So that'll give us a
June 9th.
definite enough time to be able to talk spoilers on our show that Friday.
all the wieners, dude. It's literally in fucking 2 weeks.
I told you, yeah, it's like in 2 weeks, dude.
All the wieners.
Yeah, I'm really excited because
Yeah.
I really don't know how they're gonna take the time variant thing and do the Loki thing.
Dude, I'm hearing that they're gonna put Lady Loki in it.
Oh, I guarantee it. I have this vibe
Yeah.
that like they kind of okay. So do you remember in the comic books they had a series called Loki, Agent of Asgard?
Mhm.
So in the Loki, Agent of Asgard, it was with the little kid Loki.
Yeah. One
Now,
of
what he was going around
oh,
doing,
dude, I love and hate Loki now, but because like there's so many iterations of him, and that I haven't concentrated on him enough that when I see him in a certain aspect of a certain story, I have to go research how that came to be, and then I have the context of the entire story or his motivations and stuff.
yeah,
like
it's very confusing. There's a lot of like Deus Ex Machina writing for him, right?
yeah,
Because sometimes like in that aspect of when Loki's a little kid, that's when he gets reborn after his death. And he's brought back as this like child variation of himself. And he has to go back and find like his memories or some shit like that. Like it's such a weird aspect, but there is kind of like, I don't know. I know that this is why they got him, but they recently like opened up and said that they had got a writer from Rick and Morty.
sweet.
The reason why they brought in a writer from Rick and Morty is because there is like a Citadel of Ricks, but for Loki,
Yeah,
where like there is like a pocket dimension where all the Lokis kind of like sometimes meet on like the astral plane, and they kind of figure out who needs to be in charge. And that's kind of like an interesting story plot when it comes to like the Loki in the time variant, with this Loki being the head honcho, right? Because you look at this, the regular Loki from the movies that had been passed through, and that was kind of a Loki that a lot of people fell in love with, right? Because he ended up having like a really great heart. He was almost like a hero, even though he made mistakes. Like he was like slightly like kind of like bad, and then he would come out and be good. And then like he loved Thor, and him and Thor had this like great like matchup of like of vibes together. They were good. But you don't get that in the comic books. Like you rarely get that kind of closeness in the comic books with these characters. It wasn't until recently in the comic books with Loki that he was a lot more working with Thor than any other times in the comics. Other than that, they've always been at each other's throats. I mean, even if you look at it, if you look at the I don't know if you remember like the Jane Foster story, right? In the Jane Foster story, Thor gets a vision that it would be him versus Loki in the end, and Loki had the Black Blade.
Yeah.
So like, and that never came to fruition. That never came to fruition in the comics, because at the ending of Thor and the Black Blade, it was Malekith versus Thor, and then Jane Foster with the ultimate Thor hammer. Like, they never had the Loki part. Then Loki ended up being the Sorcerer Supreme after that, and like it went a whole other direction. So there is still that image of that future life where Loki will end up fighting Thor, and he'll be using the Black Blade to kill him. Which, of course, that'll be like, I guess that's like a prophecy of like the future, right? But the thing is the Marvel universe lacks the Loki that is always fucking people over. Like, he just casually fucks people over in the movies, but then he always comes back and he's like at the end of Infinity War, when he ends up like, man, brother, if I was there with you, I'd give you a hug for reals. And he like stays and he gives him a hug and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then at the end, when he dies by Thanos' hands, he dies a hero. Like, he dies an official hero. But the real Loki at that time was more closer to the way he was in Avengers in the comics. So like, for Marvel as a company to go back and grab the Loki from the Avengers time and remove him from the timeline and make him like into like, that's going to be the official Loki for the future of the Marvel universe. That's fantastic. Like, he will always be a great villain. But then again, we don't know how many movies Tom Hiddleston has written off for.
Yeah, but Tom Hiddleston, I think right now is kind of just gonna be like, I'm gonna milk this. Yeah, like I'm gonna, not just that, but I kind of think he's also gonna like milk it a little bit.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I would at least.
I would, yeah, dude. I was like, I'd milk the fuck out of that.
Yeah,
if I could be Loki, I'd be Loki in a heartbeat, man. So we have the Loki show coming up. It's gonna be on Wednesdays, and we'll cover the spoilers on Fridays. So that gives us something really fun to talk about when it starts coming out. I can't wait. Like we said, we saw MODOK. I was very unimpressed by MODOK. I thought it was a lot of garbage.
Could give a fuck.
Yeah, I give that like a solid 2 out of 10. So if you want to watch it, and you dug it, that's cool. Even
wasted my time with it then.
Yeah, I really don't. I think they could have done something better with it, but I think Marvel just they dropped the ball on MODOK. It's on Hulu. It's an animated series. It's made by the people who made Robot Chicken. It's it's, for what it's worth, it's not good. I don't see it being something prominent in the next like 4 or 5 years that people will even remember. So I think that's what's important, is if you can remember it a couple years down the road. Like, you look at people are still watching Captain or Iron Man 1, dude. And how long ago was Iron Man 1?
Fucking forever.
Yeah, like what, 10 years ago? 11 years ago? People are still watching it and telling people that it's an amazing movie. So MODOK not there. But this coincides with something else that I am very excited for, which is, of course, every Marvel fan is excited for this, which is Phase 4 of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Phase 4 is the next iteration of Marvel projects that are going to be coming out that do coincide very closely to the Scarlet Witch television show that already came out on Disney Plus, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that came out on Disney Plus, and now the Loki film their series that will be coming out on Disney Plus, and then onward and onward. I know that the writer got picked up again for another Wanda Disney Plus series, and we also saw earlier that the character of Okoye from Black Panther is going to be getting her own Disney Plus series also. So that'll be an interesting story. I know we were talking about it a little bit a while ago. She has made her way into different comic books, including the Iron Fist, which is a very interesting story nonetheless, for what it's worth. But yeah, we don't really, I have no idea where they would take her character in the comics. I think the Black Panther region of films is still very eggshells on what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's just my thing.
That's why I'm kind of just like, oh, okay. What
Yeah,
like
I'm the same way. Like I kind of feel like, I mean, of course, like we've heard talks that they want to make Shuri the Black Panther.
yeah.
I think it's a cool idea. I mean, it would be probably the easiest way to go forward with this concept. I still feel that her character from Endgame and the Black Panther film, she was still very green. Like
Yes.
they didn't really give her a lot of like that you believe she could be the Black Panther and run a country and or fight, because she revolved everything around her blasters and she had no hand-to-hand combat. So like it's kind of scary to see her be the new Black Panther.
Well, in the movies, that was, yes, for sure, like the thing. For sure.
And the other thing too was,
but in the comic books, that wasn't necessarily the thing. You know, she
she was great.
yeah, she was a like a legit, threat.
Yeah, if
She
I'm not mistaken, she
earned-
was trained by Okoye to be a warrior, like the Dora Milaje.
Well, yeah, she wasn't just trained by them. Like she was trained the same as her brother. It's just her brother's just a prodigy at everything. He's T'Challa, dude.
Yeah, it would be again masterful writing for them to write her in as that character. I think that she can. I think that anybody could reprise that role and bring it respect. The whole acting cast was great. So I just don't feel like I was a little bit taken by the Black Panther movie because again, like what's his name? Manape.
Oh yes.
M'Baku, right?
Yeah, M'Baku.
Like M'Baku, they've already kind of made him like this ally of the Black Panther. And the relationship they have is super amazing because they're almost closer. I like their friendship better than the friendship that Black Panther had with that friend of his that did the rhinos, Okoye's boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
Like the relationship that they had was so horrible compared to the M'Baku relationship. Like M'Baku had his back all the way to Endgame.
Well, not just that, dude, but like there was like a progression in it. You got to see it develop. In the first movie, obviously, they were at odds. Then you see the development of like their friendship in Infinity War and then in Endgame and stuff like that. So there was, for lack of a better word, there was character development between the two.
Really
of them.
good character development.
Like you see it and you're like, dude, this guy's in it, bro. Like I mean, he even calls him brother.
Yeah.
In the comics, that's not a thing. Yeah. But I'm glad it is in the fucking movies, dude.
Yeah, the relationship they have is very, very good. Kyle puts in the comment section, I mean, she is next in line, isn't she?
Yes, but the Black Panther title is earned. It's not just
given, yeah. She still has to fight the different tribes for it and all that stuff. That could still be challenged. But in the prospect of it too, there is a whole other storyline when she becomes a Black Panther. That's when the Black Panther gets one of his best titles, which is the King of the Dead, which is a whole other discussion for the Black Panther in the underworld. So yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, and then of course you have the rebirth of T'Challa when he comes back and he's the King of the Dead and he's Black Panther again. And then Shuri gets killed off. She risks her life for him to come back.
Yo, dude, she goes out like a boss though.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, dude.
Like
yeah, definitely she does.
Boss.
It actually is a pretty solid storyline. It's a really great storyline, as a matter of fact. Probably one of the best storylines that Black Panther's had, because like the future endeavors of the Intergalactic Wakanda Association, I thought that was garbage. Did you ever see that one or no?
Which one?
That was like in recent times when they did the Intergalactic Association of Wakanda.
Yeah,
that was really bad, dude.
The weirdest story ever.
Yeah, that's like super, like 400 years in the future.
Yeah, or some shit like that.
Killmonger comes back, and he's like in the future. He becomes T'Challa, and then T'Challa is there, but he's like, he doesn't have his memories, and then he unlocks his memories.
You find out that it's the actual T'Challa from 616, not like it's like
the actual T'Challa, like 200 years in the future.
What the fuck, dude?
It's a very awkward story, and as a matter of fact, that's the guy who wrote that storyline is the guy they're trying to get to write the Black Superman story. So, I'm not excited for it. The guy's not great at writing stuff. It's almost like he kind of just throws ideas out there just to I don't know, to build on propaganda or whatever. But for what it's worth, those stories weren't great. But the T'Challa story becoming the king of the dead, and Shuri and Storm, because that's when Storm's like trying to get him out of being dead. Remember? That's like when the Storm story is like super prominent. It's super great. If you guys get an opportunity, you guys need to check it out. But I want to kind of go into a little bit more deeper into the Phase 4 aspect, because this past week we had a very awesome trailer drop, which I mean, we're at wit's ends. I mean, myself, Trigger is a lot more excited than I am, but nonetheless, we're both excited. And that was the drop of Marvel's Eternals trailer, which we had got a lot of, a lot of feedback for in the last couple of months. But now we got some actual footage. Trigger, what did you think of the trailer, dude?
I thought it was very ambiguous, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, dude, this is gonna come out, and this is gonna come out, and this is gonna happen," and I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! You don't know anything."
Yeah.
No, you don't. We don't know anything about what's going on.
I mean, not to be rude.
Yeah, the only thing that I can almost say for certain is that Gilgamesh is going to play a really, really, really big, important part. And the reason that I say that, because the city that you see in the very, very beginning, I have a feeling is Babylon.
Okay.
And that's where Gilgamesh is like famous for, for the Epic of Gilgamesh. He was the king of Babylon. I believe it was that or Sumeria.
Babylon. Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, Babylon, and so that's why I was like, I have a feeling that's exact. Oh, he's Mesopotamian. My bad. And Sumerian. Yes, he's Sumerian. My bad. I knew he was Sumerian. Anyway, the reason that I say that is because I think you're going to see ancient Sumer, and I believe that's the city that you're seeing being built, in the blue, with Gemma Chan being in the center of it. And I think that's gorgeous, dude. It's one of those things where, like, unfortunately, this trailer gave me a lot more questions than it did answers. Because dude, I'm super excited that I got to see things, and I'm like, oh, dude, cool. Like, we have a trailer for it. But at the same time, like, you're still with that question. Where the fuck were they, during Infinity War and Endgame? They were like, oh, we don't interfere. But now we're getting into it. And we're like, the fate of the fucking universe was not your problem.
Well, I mean, okay, so we mentioned Gilgamesh, right?
Yeah.
So first off, there's roughly about 10 characters that are important to this storyline. That's including one of them that is shown in the trailer, but that doesn't get a lot of hang time on the outside. And then, of course, the king of the Eternals, or the leader of the Eternals, Xurx, or Xurus.
So Xurus is not the leader of the Eternals.
Not necessarily.
He's
the
just
oldest
the
version.
Oldest Eternal. Which I know is like a weird double standard thing. How do you be eternal and then old?
So what oldest? Even before we get into the conversation, what I want to do is I want to kind of like, because I know 100% that 90% of the people that were excited about this don't know shit about the Eternals. Like, and the reason why I say that is because comic book readers only know as much as the comic books for these characters. And right now, the movie probably explains more of the comic books than the trailer. Well, the trailer explains more of the comic books than the comic books do. So, like, it's kind of been like this weird, like, backwards and forward story with the Eternals, where, like, of course, we look at the main character that's played by Richard Madden, who's playing Icarus, where we look at him, but because of the fact that he is. So this is just my take on this. And of course, I'm no professional at calling these things, but just my take on the situation of how I kind of think it came along. This was during a time when Jack Kirby was between jobs. He was at DC, and he showed this kind of like project to to the DC universe when they were doing the cosmic landscape. He wanted to do like this this pantheon of cosmic gods. And I think this was like right on the tails of them restarting the new gods in the DC universe.
Mhm.
And what I think is when he pitched the story to DC, they were kind of like, nah, that doesn't float with us. We don't like it. So then Jack Kirby was like, well, fine, screw you. Then I'll go back to Marvel and I'll take it with me. And of course, Marvel at that time didn't have a big jump on the Pantheon or any of the cosmic entities other than Thor. And I think that's why they picked it up. But there is a lot of correlation between the Justice League characters and the Eternals characters. Where like Icarus is the Superman. You have what's his name? Not Fastos. What's the Kingo. Kingo's like their Batman, who's like their mysterious character. You have Thena, who is the Wonder Woman character. Like you have a bunch of characters. You have fucking Ajax, the spirit guy, the one that like the Martian Manhunter. Like you have a bunch of characters that correlate very well with the Justice League. And that's why I think that DC didn't want these characters in the first place. Is they didn't want that trilogy of characters, the Kingo, Athena, and Icarus, to kind of correlate with the way Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were. I think they kind of felt like it was too close to have another team have like individual characters that all had their own special powers.
Well,
right?
this was off the heels of the Fourth World, and
Yes.
that was the whole Jack Kirby thing, right?
Yeah.
And he pitched that to Marvel, and Marvel was like, "Fuck that."
Yeah,
And he went to DC and he pitched it, and
that's
they
the
were like,
crack smoke.
"Yeah," and they were like, "I don't know, man, give us something." And then he made the New Gods,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were like, "Crap." And he was like, "Well, fuck you guys. Then I'm going back to Marvel." And then he was like, "Okay, guys, and now hear me out.
Yeah, check me out.
Eternals. They know the Celestials. I can give you all backstory. Pencil it.
Yeah, pencil it in. Let's go.
I want it on my desk by Monday." That was kind of like one of those like, okay, dude, it was like there was no way that he was gonna win with that. But that was also the problem, is that he had such an ambitious story that nobody has faith in it. And like the even shittier part of it is that there's not a whole lot of like context to anything when it comes to the Eternals.
The reason why is because what they started in like 74 and it only lasted like 2 years.
Yeah. And
like the
even
publication was only 2 years.
Yeah. And even then and I'm talking about the Eternals as a whole, right? You see Icarus pretty often. Icarus is around because like that's just the way that Icarus is. He's one of those things where like you need something to tie the cosmic landscape sometimes to Thanos. And Thanos, for anyone who doesn't know, is an Eternal. He is an Eternal. And he's an Eternal who has a deviant gene, thus him looking the way that he does. And it's one of those things where it's like, that's why when it comes to the Eternals, Thanos is like, they all have to die.
Well, it's very interesting, right? Because like these characters, you look at Icarus, you look at Ajax, you look at Makari, which is the speed character. You look at Fastos, which is of course Fastos through history, which is the guy who makes the weapons and all the engineering. You look at Gilgamesh, who is like the powerhouse. You look at Kingo and Athena and Sprite. Like all of these characters are casually almost cousins to Thanos on his age. Like they are super close to Thanos. Like in the sense of time that they've been on Earth or the time that they've been alive, they're very close to Thanos. Like literally it was the Eternals, the Deviants, who were kind of like messed with humankind, right? Mankind, the cosmic entities, what are the Celestials?
Mhm.
They came and they messed with humans and they messed their DNA and they made 3 variations of humans. They made regular humans, which they already had, but they have a sleeping gene that can be activated through like the mutants, or you have like Captain America, someone that kind of like gets hit with like a radiation and doesn't kill him, which is very similar to even if you think about it, that representation could also go with Bradley, Isaiah Bradley, where like out of all of the people that they tested, the 120 men that they tested, Isaiah Bradley was the only one that survived. Where like, so he has that dormant gene that they're talking about. But then you also look at it, and then they made the Eternals, which is a little closer to what the Greek gods were, but they're not the Greek gods. Like they're actually they're removed from them. The Greek gods came from like a different pantheon, not the celestial pantheon, right? They came from like the godly pantheon, the religious variation.
Mhm.
So like celestial has to deal more with like science and space. Think celestial in the Marvel universe as like the religion of science, right? Or the magic of science, where you have like the religious aspect, which is separate. So like when the Eternals met the Greeks and met Odin and all of these guys, when the Celestials came back to Earth, they were very disappointed with the Skyfathers. And they told the Skyfathers, like, hey, you know what? You're not a part of us, but don't fuck with our science experiment anymore. If not, we'll wipe you all out. Like, you remember that, right?
Yeah, and even then, like that's still super ambiguous itself because like no one is like completely sure if that's like exactly how that
Canon?
conversation. Yeah, if that's even really canon. Because one day it was like, hey, you guys are doing stuff. Stop. Whatever you're doing, just stop it.
Yeah,
and
just
they're
stop.
like, yeah, and like nothing really came of it.
Mhm.
They just did. You know, that's why you don't see Odin anymore, or Bishamonten, or Susanoo. Or
Yeah, they're not messing with the world.
They don't interact with the world anymore. You know, and like the thing is that like with the Eternals, I see the Eternals as just like eternal scientists. They are there specifically to watch the experiment of man play out.
Yeah, to
That's
play
it.
out and stuff.
And specifically to make sure that no one fucks with the experiment. So when the Eternals come and the experiment is finished, the Eternals don't die. Because they can die. It's just not easy. And
Yeah, it's really weird the way that it's explained, because like even at first when I was reading it, like I would be like, wait, they're eternal but they're not immortal?
yeah.
Like, how does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
eternal is the concept of like you're forever.
Yeah.
Eternal is forever. But the concept of knowing that these people like that, you know, there's a couple of like the remakes of it, which was like I think like in 2012.
See, but that's the thing. Like, even with that, they do die, but they can come back.
But they can come back if the machine is allowed.
Yeah.
If the machine is
just as long as the machine is still around.
But you see, like, even with that, like, even when we say the machine, like, that's about as much information as we got on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's like, what is the machine? And it's like, well, it's the machine.
It's the in between.
Yeah, it's just the machine.
Well,
so
in between of what? Life and death. I don't know.
So like this thing is okay. So if you haven't read comic books and you're not really familiar with what we're talking about the Eternals, and the Eternals were created by the Celestials. The Celestials in the movie in the Marvel universe were explained very well by the Grandmaster in Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1, when they get the Infinity Stone for the first time to him, and he wants to buy it. The Collector, not the Grandmaster, my bad. His brother or his cousin or whatever. He ends up telling him about these like giant creatures or giant spacemen, I guess you could say, that were known for wiping out entire civilizations. There is also the Head of Nowhere, which is a dead celestial whose head was cut off. It doesn't really. Who cut off his head? Was it by the Black Blade?
Yeah, I was about to say.
I wasn't gonna say it. No.
Yeah, that did that.
As a matter of fucking fact, the Black Blade again. That thing is ominous in the universe. Not to be mistaken with the Ebony Blade, which we'll get into in a little bit later. But yeah, the Head of Nowhere is also a celestial, which was also explained in Guardians of the Galaxy also.
Indeed.
So Guardians of the Galaxy was a very good precursor to explaining the Celestials, but not only to a certain extent. Because then again, you have Galactus, which a lot of normies know, and a lot of people who don't read comic books know Galactus because of the Final Fantasy or of Fantastic Four movies, right? But even with that, it wasn't very good either, because in a way, Galactus is like a smaller variation of the Celestials. But he also was just a scientist in another multiverse or in another dimension, another universe.
Yeah,
who
the previous
survived.
universe. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was just a scientist that survived.
He is Gallon of Ta.
A gallon of tar. So in the aspect of it, don't look at the Celestials like these just giant gods. You have to look at them like giant scientists. Because literally what their biggest thing was, they're kind of like in the Prometheus movies. They're the precursors to creating civilizations. And what they do is they start a civilization, and then of course they kind of like mess with the DNA to kind of create different species. And then from there, they allow the species to flourish, and they leave people to protect that species so that the project or whatever experiment they're going on does not get messed up. Because at the very end of their science project, the creatures they create can either be good or bad. And in that, you feed off of that energy. If it's bad, it goes to these characters known as the Horde. And if it's good, it goes to the Celestials, and it goes to their positive energy. So either way, there was a comic book run that actually it's not too far from where we're at right now in the comics, where the Eternals at the very end ended up kind of like fighting each other and wiping themselves out. And the reason why is because they figured out that through and through that they are just food. That no matter what, they just die. And they have no there's no predestination to actually not need to serve anybody. They always serve a purpose. They're very much like the Matrix, because they're inside a program that they always have to constantly follow. So like there's always like this idea, like they kind of touch base on it in the trailer, when at the end they're like, so Captain Rogers and Iron Man are gone, who's going to lead the Avengers? And Icarus is kind of like, I can lead the Avengers. And then everybody laughs at him.
They're all like, shut your goofy ass up.
And the reason why they laughed at him was not because of the fact that they don't believe he can. Because that's the thing, is like, he's a very strong person in the stories for the Eternals. But it's because if the machine doesn't choose you to do it, it's not your job. So for him to have a choice, if he wants to lead the Guardian or the Avengers, it's not his choice. Like, that's pretty much what it is. So like when they laugh at him at the end, it's like, yeah, dude, whatever. Your job is to be an Eternal, so that's what you got. You know what I mean? But you can tell where there's like this kind of like this kind of want for them to just be normal. And I kind of feel like that's what the story's going to be about. I feel like, okay, we talked about this earlier, and the trailer was very like ominous, like we said. But I feel like it's going to either relate with 3 or 2 timelines. One of them is going to be what I think you said. I think the Gilgamesh theory is a very great theory. And the reason why is because Gilgamesh is, of course, an Eternal, played by Don Lee, who is an amazing actor. If you haven't seen Train to Busan, or if you haven't seen, God, I even recommended it on the show once. It's on Hulu. It's like 40 Days of something. It's like the Korean. It's this Korean movie that's based on people who have to go through like their trials at the end of the world.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, dude.
But he's in part 2, and he is a deity that ends up staying on Earth to protect his child whose grandfather's too weak to protect him. He cannot hurt humans, but he can protect the child. But he can defend himself against other spirits, which he beats the fuck out of the other spirits. It's crazy how strong he is. But he's such a great character, and he's like a chubbier man, but he's like, he's kind of always portrayed as like this powerhouse character. He looks a lot like a Wong from Doctor Strange. I used to think they were the same actor, but they're not. Don Lee is a great actor. He'll be playing this character named Gilgamesh, and I think the story is going to correlate in two things, which is where the first line is the Eternals, where they come to Earth and they're creating civilizations and they're helping, but they're very into helping society. Like they're really like hands-on, and they're going to have like a New Testament, Old Testament kind of situation happen with the Gilgamesh storyline, which is the Babylon story, which is, I think it's going to be very much like, if you read the Eternals comic book, there is a Titanus, read it? Titanus? Is that the name of it? The Titanus storyline?
Oh, yeah.
That's where they have a bunch of Eternals who live on Earth. Two Eternals kind of come to blows. One of them says, we should be in charge of the humans and conquer them. And the other one's saying, hey, well, that's not our job. You know, we shouldn't do that. Cronus, I think. And Uranus.
It's Cronus, and Cronus is like the descendant of Icarus, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he's actually the father of Zerus.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of like what happened. Like what when Thanos is talking about the people of the moon of Titan, or the moon of Saturn, Titan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the Eternals, and they all died, and like that's kind of like one of those things where it's like he's talking about the Eternals, but like it was just this weird thing that's happening, and that's why I kind of really want to get into things where like where exactly is this going to be explained that those were Eternals?
Alex jumped in. Good job, y'all.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
My dude.
And I kind of want to see how this goes, because those were Eternals. They were a faction that broke off and supported.
Okay, so this is just my theory on, because you really made a good point on thinking that it might be the Babylon story. What I think they're gonna do, because like we said, Kevin Feige's come out a bunch of times and said, he's always trying to pick out these characters that don't have a lot of backstory because you can mess with them faster. And the Eternals are like prime on the idea of what you can do with it right now in the Marvel universe.
Oh, yeah.
What I think they're going to do is, I think they're going to mix the Babylon story and they're going to make the Titus story. And I think that's where the faction is going to come from, is that where Thanos was born like 500 or something years ago, they're going to make it like a younger generation, where the Babylon story is going to be that faction with Gilgamesh, who was tricked by Sprite into becoming the ruler of the world. Like Gilgamesh is going to be in charge of that whole situation. That's what we were talking about, right? And that's why you don't see Gilgamesh a lot in the trailer, because you said it before. You said that Gilgamesh will probably end up being like a villain, but not a villain, because he means it in good terms. And that's the point. I think he's going to be, since he's such a strong character, and in the comic books, in the Marvel universe, and in real history, Gilgamesh was this character who really did kind of mess around a lot with the human being kind. And Gilgamesh was this character that was always with like the Thor and Hercules characters. So he was always kind of fucking around with like the different pantheons and the different humanity groups and being a part of the wars and stuff like that. But I really think because Sprite is their variation of Loki. So like, I think Sprite is going to get him to correlately take over Babylon and get the people to fight against, of course, the rest of the Eternals. And I think that the Eternals, for what they are, the 8 or 10 that are there, are going to be a small faction of the rest of them. I think they're going to be like the Asgardians. But there's going to be a lot of them on that ship. The one that appears like at the very beginning. So like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of Eternals that come out of that, and then they will work with humanity, but all of the Eternals will come to make Babylon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that aspect, after they create it, like, of course the Eternals are like, all right, dude, we've done well, like we've really done really cool, but Gilgamesh is the one that's going to be like told like, hey, well, you are the strongest of all of us. Like Sprite's going to tell him like, hey man, these people, they need a ruler, because anybody from here on out can just take over. And I feel like Sprite is going to be the one that's going to kind of get Gilgamesh to kind of go against the group. And then he's going to be pushed into the he's going to get killed off in the history part. But remember that when they get killed off, they get reborn, but even when they're reborn, they can be held in that one spot because they're imprisoned. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So like I think that's what's going to happen to Gilgamesh. Is that in the past when Babylon happened and the war came and all that stuff, the half of the Eternals are going to leave to Titan. And then that's when you're going to get your story of them bringing Thanos in. And it'll be around that same time after Babylon's fall, which is very correlated to when the Celestials come and wipe out Atlantis. Remember? Because the Celestials come and wipe out Atlantis because the Deviants take over mankind. But I feel like that's going to be one half of the story, which is the history part of the Eternals learning that they kind of let like society kind of fail on its own. And Gilgamesh was the only one that kind of like got involved and he failed. That's what I think is going to happen. But then later you have your history of them being in the future. And then you have, of course, the introduction of the Black Knight, right? Which is going to be that dude from what's his name? What's his name?
Kit Harington.
Yeah, Kit Harington. But like in that part, I feel like that's the only thing is I don't know what they're going to do with the future part. That's where I'm really, really confused. Because yeah, we can see it where, of course, like what's her name? What's the girl's name? Cersei.
Yeah.
Right. Cersei's character is now in the future. You could tell that the Eternals have, I guess, they had all like kind of died and recently came back, except for a couple who had been back earlier, which of course was like Kingo's character. He's kind of like this Bollywood actor. He's kind of like, you know, he's the Bollywood guy, right? He's kind of like been around for a while and he's become like this like action star. So he's kind of like, even though he's not messing around with mankind, he's just making it work for him.
Yeah.
And of course, like you have Icarus, and Icarus looks like he just re-woke back up. And the same thing with Sprite. You kind of feel like she's in the same kind of like situation. But I kind of feel like Salma Hayek's character, Ajax, she's like the spiritual person. I think that she's going to correlate very much for the history part.
She's going to be, in my opinion, she's going to be like the de facto leader until like the end of the story where the Unimind is officially come together and they officially name Icarus as the leader of the.
What I'm trying to figure out is, because like for what it's worth, the publication of the
Gilgamesh is fucked up in history, but yeah, he's also pretty badass.
Yeah, because he's pretty much like the Sumerian version of Hercules.
Among other things, but yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I kind of feel like I think you hit it right on the dot by thinking Gilgamesh will probably be a villain. Well, I mean, not necessarily a villain, because he's going to have, I think he would be a very good precursor to why Thanos would come out. Like he would be a very good precursor for Thanos. Like on a smaller scale. Like I feel like he would be the character that Thanos can be like, well, I like the way he thinks. You know what I mean? And then the de facto Eternals from Gilgamesh's squad are the ones that leave for Titan. And then of course, like they're taught like the ideals of Gilgamesh when they go to Titan. And then when Titan starts to get a little bit more political is when all of this stuff kind of goes awry and Thanos is born and they don't believe in the deviant gene and all that other stuff. I know there is one part in the trailer where Kingo kind of like slides under something and it looks like a horse. Like if you go back and watch the trailer, I'm not saying go back and watch it right now, but he kind of like slides under something and he like shoots like lasers at him or some shit from his hands. And I kind of feel like that's the idea of a deviant. And I have this idea that they're going to be going with like historical creatures like the Minotaur, the
Possibly.
Sphinx.
We could
As
very,
like the
we could very
deviants.
well see, you know, the Iron Fist dragon in it.
Yeah, as
who
being
knows, dude?
deviants, right?
Yeah.
Because deviants were these characters that were taken from the human element and they were spliced and cut up and they
So
were turned.
technically, there's no such thing as a human element. It's like I'm not gonna say it's wrong, but it's like not accurate. So the thing is that like the experiment was made and they were made in threes. You had the Eternals,
Mhm.
who were pure. You had the impure, who were deviants, and then you had the hybrids essentially, who were given a specific gene that in some point in time
They
would
would unlock.
activate and it would give them powers. The thing is that the Eternals were meant to watch over everything. The deviants were made to keep the humans in line, and the humans were just made to roam. That was it. Go on about your business.
Or cattle.
The deviants in their head was like, no, I'm just going to rule them because it's easy and they're stupid.
This is easy.
And you know, the Eternals were like, no, you can't do that. You're fucking with the experiment. And they're like, no, fuck your experiment.
And it's super crazy because like the Eternals and the Deviants almost have like an automatic homing beacon that lets them know when they're around each other.
Yeah,
that's what's super crazy because like they're literally meant to fight each other.
Yeah,
like at all times. But it's crazy because even with that concept in their mind, Thena, her character ends up having relations with deviants. She's constantly like getting relationships with deviants. Like that's like even right now in the Eternal story where Thanos is going around and killing all the Eternals, like Thena is met by what's her name? I always forget her name. Cirrus or what's her name? I always I always forget how to say her name. Cersei? Is it Cersei?
Yeah, Sersi.
She's met by Cersei, she's met by Sprite, and she's met by I want to say Kingo. And they show up to Thena and she's like with one of the deviant like leaders right now. And he's like freaking out because all the Eternals are there and he's not getting killed. But Thena's like, yo, you're in my house. You don't attack my man or whatever. But she ends up having like all of these bad relationships.
Yeah, but
that's the same thing as
like
too.
The thing and the funny thing, man, and you know, I saw this and I thought it was so fucked up. Is they were like, yo, if we see a wedding scene, I'm fucking walking out. You know,
because the Icarus or what?
Yeah, because of, you know, Richard Madden, you know, and him fucking just, man, that was a fucked up wedding scene in Game of Thrones. Anyway, and I think you kind of see a wedding scene anyway. Like it looks like him and Cersei do get married. Anyway, but in the story, Gilgamesh and Thena are very close, but they're like exiled. So they very well could be like the ones who were like
the de factos in history.
Yeah.
In the past, like the Babylon storyline.
They might be the ones who are taking over for the Uranos character, possibly in the movie, because that's how it started, was with Kronos and Uranos.
Yeah. They were the ones that fought each other, and then those two factions created the Eternals on Earth, and the other ones were the ones that go to Titans.
Yeah. And then
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, man, it very well could happen. I'm excited to see it because, you know, no, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know everything about the Eternals. I know enough to get me by.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and it goes back with like this thing where like there's a lot of people that are super hyped up for the Eternals because they're acting like it's super amazing, and I want to know what they're smoking because I don't know what to be excited for. I'm just excited because it's super random. Like right now, I mean, of course,
you want to know times Shang-Chi is random.
I mean,
Eternals, I can see because like we're trying to explore the cosmic landscape.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. Okay,
more now because of what's coming, right?
Yeah, so I get that. But Shang-Chi, that's okay.
Well, I think that Shang-Chi is going to kind of deal with Festos. I think Festos is when he's kind of like. There's that scene where he's kind of like doing a bunch of like the cosmic magic and that image is appearing in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like think that the magic from like the 10 rings will come from the Eternals now.
I fucking hope not, dude. That's gonna cheapen everything.
I mean,
Because-
for what it's worth, I mean, it's easy writing. It's easy writing because, like,
Yeah.
even with the sigils that they use in Doctor Strange, they're very similar to the sigils that all appear on the cosmic magic that these guys can use, like
Which
on
I
all their
get, dude.
costumes. And things like that.
I totally get that. And I'm not gonna entirely chalk that up to like easy writing and stuff like that.
But
But I am
remember,
gonna
you know,
say- but I am gonna say is that they're trying to tie things together. And I get that.
Yeah.
I just hope that they do it a lot more cohesive.
yeah, because I was going to say that we do know that Marvel has a tendency to use shapes to explain like
Connections.
cosmic magic and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because you look at Doctor Strange, you look at of course Wanda, her hex magic. You look at of course, like what's going on with the externals when they do all their magic and all the gold lines and all the circles and all the stuff. That also coincides with all the different stuff that happens in like Thor Ragnarok, like all the sigils and all the stuff that are on their weapons and their clothing, and you look like everywhere you look at, those sigils are like everywhere, everywhere. But then you also look at when the Guardians of the Galaxy space jump, and it's through a hex. It's through some kind of like a netting hexagon shaped stuff.
Yeah.
So we can tell that when Marvel tries to explain something in the sense of like it's a fantasy power, they use some type of shapes. So it kind of looks like this like gold lining of circles and like squiggly lines that Jack Kirby kind of writing like imaging.
Mhm.
Like that's probably going to be the correlation of the cosmic magic. And I mean, if you look at it, if you go back, like there is the small trailer that we've seen of what Shang-Chi. We do
Yeah.
see the rings or the bracelets that he has, and there are some sigils, and there are some like magic looking stuff, which very kind of correlates to like the Chitauri.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like in continuity, the 10 rings are alien artifacts.
Alien artifacts.
So if we're gonna do that, and oh, dude, as it is, man, Doctor Strange kind of pisses me off because it's like one of those things where it's like it's magic, but it's science magic, you know, and it's so fucking funny because, like, speaking of that, did you hear about how Kevin Feige has like finally come out and said that he completely regrets whitewashing the Ancient One?
I mean, for what it's worth, I guess. Like, I mean, they could have made it an Asian person.
Yeah, and that was the thing. He was like, "Well, I thought that if we did that, we were just gonna like play into the stereotype." And I was
mean, they
kind of
did.
just like,
They played into the stereotype by making it a white person.
yeah, and I was
They
like,
always whitewash people in Hollywood.
yeah, and I was like, you played yourself, bro. Like you whitewashed.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Ancient One.
look, for what it's worth, I think Marvel's full of shit with all the gender bending, whitewashing, and gender fucking
Yeah, man.
fucking
Like
around
what
kickers.
Kyle said.
Yeah.
You know, like what Kyle said is fucking perfect, dude. You know, like you guys call it magic, you know, or you guys call it science, you know, and your
They're
ancestors
one and the
call it
same.
magic. You know,
Yeah,
they're
it's
one and the
100%.
same.
But yeah, but I'm 100% behind that. Where I just think Marvel's full of shit when it comes to all this like SJW reaching bullshit that they've been doing in the last couple of years. Like I think, and it correlates right now, and we talked about this earlier, that all the bullshit that they've been doing with that has ruined the comic book industry enough that right now that comic book sales in the United States, there is zero Western comic books in all mangas as the top selling comics in the world.
Yeah,
Like
dude,
that's
like
right now is probably
Audrey's
the weirdest.
buying mangas left and right.
weirdest- Yeah, manga, dude. Japanese mangas are not fucking around, but it's made enough of an impact that now westernized comic book companies are now making comments on Japanese mangas on how that they do their shit, where it's too over sexualized on the girls and blah blah blah. Like they're trying to get at this shit.
So why
Yeah.
don't you unwhitewash some of your characters first and then?
But you see, like that's the crazy part is a lot of people don't realize that the Marvel universe fell into the same thing that Disney did, that every company did in history at that time, which was you couldn't have minorities as major characters. And we've already understood that that was during a time when shit was hard
Yeah.
for all minorities. But nowadays, I don't need you to go back to the time before like fucking minorities were treated as bad things. I don't need you to go back there and change some shit. I need you to come up with shit now. And I say come up, not just rewrite shit. Because that's the problem with comic books. So like right now with the Eternals, 80% of the cast of the Eternals has been gender bend or whitewashed or has been character swapped, right? And that's fine, dude, because right now nobody knows anything about the Eternals. So change the fuck out of it that makes you feel better. Like it'll make sense for them to be in different minority cultures easier that way. And maybe that's one way that all these weird people from Marvel that are like casually hiding behind like a flag of being a person who respects all races. Maybe that's their way of saying that they're actually good people or whatever. I don't know what it is. But my biggest concern right now is comic books are shit. A lot of them, 80% of them just suck right now. And I talked about this last week. Everyone's super excited about Kamala Khan. And I get it. Like she's a Muslim character that we want to see come out because she's one of the first Muslim characters to be in a comic book or a major comic book character. But there's no fucking story that makes her fun. Like they're going to have to make that in the films. And my biggest concern is what characters are they going to step on story-wise to make it make sense? That's what I'm scared of. Right? Like we have Richard Rider, right? We look at Nova. One of the greatest comic book characters ever written for an intergalactic cosmic character, right?
And it's so fucking good, dude.
Which character do you think Marvel will take Richard Rider's triumph stories and switch them out for somebody else to give them that pleasure of having that story?
Oof.
You know what I mean? Because that's what they did with Hulk and Thor. Thor sucked so bad that they had to take the greatest Hulk story and put it in a Thor film. Now, what do you do for Hulk? Because you've taken away the greatest story he's ever had, and now the character is completely shit. The ending of Infinity War and Endgames fucked the Hulk completely character-wise. What do you do now to fix his character? If watch, talk about it like if it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, Universal Studios, the head guy wakes up and goes, "Man, you know what? Marvel can have the Hulk. We give it to you. Go ahead and take him. $50. We're not even going to charge you. We don't care. All the dude has is a couple of toys, no video games, and we just have a ride called the Incredible Hulk at Universal Studios. You can have him." And in fact, I'm really excited to see Marvel get it because I just want to do the good thing, right? What does Marvel then do with the Hulk character? What story do they go with?
Honestly, man, the only one that I can really see, and this would kind of fit into like what's going on right now, and it's still pretty good, would have to be the
Immortal Hulk line?
No, fuck no, dude. I hate the Immortal Hulk line.
Yeah.
Would have to be the Red Hulk.
Oh, but you're talking about a character they can already use.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need the Hulk. They don't need the Hulk. The Red Hulk, when the Red Hulk came out, it totally breathed story into the Hulk storyline because it wasn't the Hulk.
Yeah, but what they can do is they can actually finally get that like showdown, and like granted, this is me just being ambitious, is that like finally we get to see the Thaddeus, Thunderbolt
Ross,
become Red Hulk. Because
let me ruin it for you then. Because they're probably gonna make him the villain of the Green She-Hulk storyline.
100%.
Yeah, because it makes more sense for the daughter to fight the father. But how horrible is that?
You know what I mean? Like that's just the thing, dude. Like we're gonna have to see.
Planet
Because,
Hulk,
like,
Universal porn star. Chinguetas, dude.
you
Yo,
know,
and then you cannot do a World War Hulk. Like
No.
you just can't, because Bruce Banner has found a way to eat a bunch of eggs and dab in front of a kid with a camera.
yeah,
Like he's literally found a way to literally make the Hulk less scarier than he's ever been in history.
yeah, he's Professor Hulk.
Yeah, like
so we're kind of
can't
like,
do
all right,
anything with it. Right now, even if Universal Studios gave the rights to the Hulk writers or the story to Marvel, Marvel would not know what to do with it, except, of course, probably go with the Immortal Hulk story, but then they'd have to initiate the one under all, the one below all.
I would go with the Red Hulk story, because
I mean, that would be
for the first, like, what, 3 years, you didn't know who the Red Hulk were or
Oh,
was.
dude, and he was tanking everybody.
Yeah, and
Yeah, he
he
tanked everybody. Tanked Thor.
everything up.
He even grabbed the hammer, didn't he? He even grabbed Thor's hammer like several
Yeah.
times and beat the shit out of him with it.
That's why it was like one of those, like, huh? So that's why, like, you could do that, but you just gotta have to do it right, man. You're gonna have to do it right.
Yeah.
And then after that, you won't have anything to do with him. It'll have to be all 100% pure original story. Either that,
So,
or take
my biggest concern with what's going on is I think we're about to reach a part in the cosmic cinematic universe that we're about to flip into what's going on in the comic books right now. The only thing that's good in the films is that we have well-established characters, but most of the major three are gone, which is Iron Man, Captain America, and Black Widow. Thor, thank God for Chris Hemsworth, and God bless that man's soul, says that he will play Thor for like the rest of his life.
Yeah, he'll
does
do
not
it
even
till
give
he
a shit.
drops.
Like he's ready to drop everything for it, which I am 100% like, dude, you're making millions. A bunch of people love you for what you do. Your character
love
has
you for what
growth
you
and you can
do.
keep going. Like I'm happy the dude's down. Of course, you have like Chris Evans, who's like, no, I'm an actor. I deserve to do other things, and he doesn't get picked up for anything. But I mean, for what it's worth,
You then.
get out there. For what it's worth, keep trying, brother. But the Marvel franchise has given these guys a huge platform.
I don't know, man. He was funny in Knives Out.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I just saw the train movie. What was it called?
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer. Yeah, that movie was interesting. That movie was interesting. It was Willy Wonka.
I want to read the comic book. I hear that there's a comic book on Snowpiercer, or no, the TV show.
There's
TV
show.
Yeah,
TV
for Snowpiercer, and I'm
it's
like,
supposed to be the future of Willy Wonka's planet.
Supposedly.
Yeah, it's super crazy, dude. There's a crazy theory behind it, but
yeah, everyone's like, oh, multiverse. Yeah, all right, man.
So like right now in the comic books, there's a lot of things going on, but it kind of feels like they're creatively checked out. And I kind of feel like the movies are almost there because they're trying to catch up to the timeline in the comic books. So they're going through all the old arcs pretty fast. There's still a great a good handful of old arcs that can be done.
For me, I don't know. Like, I'm not exactly too scared about it. And the reason being is because I'm kind of just like, bro, if that's the case, then show me what you can do now. Show me if you can make a good story with a good movie with completely no reference material to go off of other than this is your character to work with.
I kind of feel like this is what the Eternals is going to be. And the reason why I say that is because, like a lot of normies try to compare Guardians of the Galaxy to this.
No.
But of course, like James Gunn, like piece of shit person for what he did in his past, but he's a marvelous director and he has a great image for making film.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if he flips the Suicide Squad, like 100% that guy's going to save the DC universe. And then the DC people that love that shit that have been complaining about Marvel sucking and because we stick to one genre of filmmaking or whatever, if this what saves your face and you guys complain that it's there, or you guys start saying it's the greatest film, you're just a bunch of Marvel normies. Because again, a Marvel director had to save your franchise. So that's my call on the DC universe. But James Gunn himself made the Guardians of the Galaxy better than the comic books because of his image, his view, and his soundtrack. Right? He made it fun. There was something that you could relate to. a bunch of great comedy punches, like just solid. And his visuals were they were spot on. Guardians of the Galaxy, probably still one of my top 3 Marvel films. But the director that they chose for the Eternals is a super serious film director. I mean, she won an Academy Award for The Wanderer. What was it called?
Yeah, or something like that.
Something like that. Like, and it's a very classy film, and the cinematography is fantastic.
Yeah, but that's the thing, dude. They have a strong director behind it, so that's why I'm completely like, fucking go for it, dude.
I want to see a super serious Marvel film.
Yeah, so there was
like,
Nomadland, The Rider. Dude, I mean, these are not bad movies.
Like, there is a part of me that wants to see a super serious Marvel film that doesn't have a lot of like one pun comedies. Like, I want to see something that the Actors Guild or the Screen Actors Guild is going to look at and be like, you know what, we're going to put this up for an Academy Award.
Well, I can tell you right now that's not going to happen because they already have Kumail Nanjiani, and that guy's a comedian. That's what he's.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the guy that's playing Kinjo.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll have it's got to have its Marvel-esque,
like
kind of bits to it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like, oh, let's make a Marvel movie in the same tone or same seriousness that they did the Joker. But
yeah, of course.
I'm kind of like, bro, this is gonna be one of those that hits like on a fucking personal note because like this is all about like sticking together for thousands of years.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to do. I want to really feel. I want to feel that moment at the end where all of them are like, okay, cool, like it's been fun. We'll see you guys when we need each other. Like, see you later. And that's why like Cersei. Yeah, Cersei's with the Black Knight. That's why she's with that crew. Like they've kind of gone off and branched off on their own. Even though they're not messing with humanity as leaders, they're kind of like just making sure it's just going along.
Yeah.
Right? Where when Gilgamesh was in charge, he was kind of like trying to force the humanity to do what he wants. I could see that being the story.
That's why, like, I kind of think that could happen.
Oh yeah, I 100% believe that. And Don Lee is
right.
An amazing actor.
It's not exactly out of the realm of possibility. It still fits into comic book continuity. It fits into world continuity. And it's not something out of like complete left field where you're like, dude, I don't know. Like,
it sounds like that could be pretty much it. I kind of feel like the first half of the film, the villains, I mean, not the villains per se, because they're not necessarily villains, and I don't think they hate each other, will be, of course, Gilgamesh. And Druig will be more of a villain of the future.
I think it'll be Thena.
Thena in the beginning? So Gilgamesh and Thena and Sprite?
I think Sprite will be the overall arcing villain of it.
Dude, there's a part of me that hopes not, because we already have a Loki character.
I do.
You already anticipate that idea.
I know, but at the same time, we need somebody who's going to stick to the Loki-esque.
You need that, right? That's what kind of thing.
Because right now, I have a feeling that the Loki TV show is going to be like a huge redemption story for Loki.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. You've already seen him in Infinity War basically die for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And why not continue the trend? Everyone loved it. Everybody loved it. Seeing that scene where Loki looks at Thor and the sun will shine on us again.
The sun on us tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely correct.
Beautiful, dude. I mean, I remember watching that and I was like, that was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know how we would do with, because everyone's going to automatically, if that's the way they go, they're going to automatically associate Sprite with Loki. You know what I mean? And then they're going to compare both of them together, which I'm kind of like, I hope not.
To me, I don't know. Maybe it's just the like, I'm going to blow it off because I know what I'm talking about sort of thing, where I'm kind of just like, I don't need to worry about the like normie critics, because I'm not going to say that, oh, this movie's not for you or something. I hate it when people say that.
Yeah.
Maybe this movie wasn't made for you. Shut the fuck up. Shut your mouth. The movies are made for people. Are you a person? Are you a fucking alien or something like that? Then no, the movie's not made for you. Shut the fuck up. The movie is made.
I mean,
for
it's
people.
it's just one of those things, right? I feel like it's just that's like easy excuse for movies being stupid. That was like the biggest excuse for the Joker being bad.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, "Oh, it's because you don't get it." And then when they came at the director and they're like, "Yo, dude, your movie's not good," he's like, "Oh, it's because it's super like with a bunch of folds over it. There's a bunch of onion peels you got to get under to get to the real movie, or oh,
Yeah,
was that a real thing, or was it?" It's like, dude, come on. Like the Joker movie was like that for me. So
yeah, that's why like when people like, and I had people tell me that, oh man, it's because you just don't get it. I don't get what mental.
yeah,
illness?
like explain to me what I don't get, right?
Yeah, explain to me about the character that I've been reading for the past 15 fucking years that I don't understand it.
Yep.
The guy who also deals with mental illness, the pills that I used to take for mental illness.
Like, it's
Please
one of those
educate
things.
me further.
Like, and that was the biggest excuse that was the biggest like argument for me was people would try to argue the fact that, man, I really like this film because the Joker was real relatable. That was like my biggest like pet peeve. Like that was like my biggest pet peeve. The relatability of the factor of that being the part of the argument where
Yeah,
like
that's why like every time, because I heard that
you get
too.
like an eye twitch, man.
Yeah, I was like, what?
So I know that I've probably said this a million times, but I do like the fact that they're involving the Eternals in the world right now because there is a really cool like connection to the mutant kind. There is a really cool connection to Galactus. There's a really huge connection for them bringing the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer.
Celestials.
And yeah, dude, and like Icarus is going to be
this movie very well should and could kick off like the true Phase 4.
Yeah, like this is like going to
of it.
Like that's probably my biggest like excitement is like this is it right here.
Yeah.
Like we all thought it was probably gonna be what's its face? The WandaVision, right? Remember we were talking WandaVision being the we were like, now WandaVision, it has possibility.
Open,
like,
dude. It's
like right now,
it very
the
much
Eternals. Yeah, it really has the opportunity to really open up the rest of the Marvel universe.
Right now, dude,
like in one big
this is
thing.
Flint. They're the Flint right now.
Yeah.
Dude, you just got to strike it right, man. I'm telling you, you got to strike it right, and you have everything.
You know what? Deep cuts. I know that this is a really like this could have been what the Inhumans were like 2 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago. It should have been. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. But you know what? One thing that I'm really really excited for,
and they love pulling fucking Game of Thrones characters, man.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really really excited for is Icarus is going to be the first kind of like call to us seeing almost like a Superman Hyperion character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean, I'm not going to take away from Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel was like that flying superhuman fireballs character. Nothing to shit on her. Nothing to shit on her. This just gives you a really cool opportunity to see like, I don't mean to say it in this way, but like the chiseled, like perfect looking dude. Yeah, like laser beam flying out of his eyes, and him standing there real stoic, dude. Real like.
And now, granted, if we're going to be completely honest, in the Eternals, this is all white boy Aryan, perfect specimen.
Yeah, that's the dude, man. That's Icarus. He's a Greek, and it's not like that's Greek god more. Yeah, like Greek pantheon.
So actually, fun fact about Icarus: Icarus isn't even his real name.
No,
Icarus is the name of his son, and because his son died, he wanted to keep his son's name. He wanted to keep his son alive, so he took his son's name,
which is the Icarus you're thinking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the dude who flies too close to the sun and falls in the water and drops. That's his kid.
Yeah.
So just letting you know.
Just letting you know. What his real name is? Good fucking question. We still don't know.
I mean, but it's going to give you a really good idea because like, like straight up throughout history and the Eternals history, he's been the most fairly used one because I think it was because of his look.
Yeah, no,
like he had the cool colors. Like he had the look of the powers of the main superhero.
Yeah, he also had the cool powers. So it was easy to roll him in. It really is. But the thing is that like right now we have a bunch of Eternals who are about to come out, but for sure we're about to see deviants. We're about to see deviants. I mean,
I'm really excited how they're gonna do the deviants because
it's
like
on the
the
wiki
trailers
page.
don't show anything.
Exactly, but it's on the wiki page. They are
Yeah.
like, you will see the deviants, you know, and so
man, that's gonna be so cool.
oh, dude, yeah,
That's gonna be so cool. And the reason why is because, of course, deviants are supposed to be like these crazy monsters, but
see,
there's a bunch of stuff in history that they can push off of. There's a bunch of stuff in history. Because even if you want to think about it, right? Like, you know how like in Japanese history or Chinese history or even like Indian Bollywood history, there's like the Vamana, like the flying carpets, the Sphinx, like Japanese dragons and all this stuff. Those can all be deviants, dude. And that's why they're talked about in history. And that'll be a cool thing for like a Fing Fang Foom.
yeah,
Yo, can you imagine Fing Fang Foom coming out in the fucking movies?
that'd be weird, dude.
That'd be really
That'd
weird,
be
but
really,
cool though,
really
because
weird.
he is a really cool callback character.
Yeah,
Like he's a really cool callback character. So for like that would probably be
could
one of the
see
most
him more in
risque
Shang-Chi.
characters I would want to
Oh,
see.
I could see him more in the Shang-Chi because like
Yeah.
you know he's more Asian based.
Yeah.
You know, but in the wiki page it says that so the official premise of what's on the wiki page is after an unexpected tragedy following the events of Avengers Endgame, the Eternals, an immortal alien race created by the Celestials who has secretly lived on Earth for over 7,000 years, reunite to protect humanity from their evil counterparts, the Deviants. So there very well could be the falling out that I'm telling you about, you know, with the whole Gilgamesh and Athena thing.
Yo,
Things, you know,
straight up. I didn't even think about this. We didn't even talk about it, but the idea of the Eternals seeing the sin of Titan get killed off by the Avengers.
Right, dude? And like
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
For anybody who doesn't know what the sin of Titan is, it is our main.
it's a boy.
It's
Purple
main,
boy. The sack, the
it's
nutsack
main, yeah,
chin.
it's main boy Thanos. the
Yeah,
one
main
you
boy,
probably
big
agreed
thick
with.
Thanos. Big booty Thanos is the
Yeah.
sin of Titan. And the Eternals know exactly who the fuck he is.
Yeah.
Like they know exactly who the fuck he is. Like
This
even though
is
they've
like
never met him in
who's
real life,
that?
they know.
Yeah. This isn't who's that? No, they are
No, they're like exactly. They're like, holy fuck, Thanos is on Earth. Like, yeah, these guys are done. And yeah, and then he gets fucking tanked by 3 dudes and a fucking spider
Right.
guy. 3 dudes in a spider.
You loser.
Yeah, in a minivan.
Right. Fucking loser.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting, man. Now that one idea just blows my mind.
Right,
But
man?
guys, what do you think about the Eternals comic book movie coming to film? How are you guys excited? What are you guys excited for? What is it that you want to see come out on the big screen when it comes to the Eternal films? And what do you think the coming of the Eternals to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to do for the rest of the Marvel Universe into Phase 4 and into the rest of the phases? Do you think it's a good way to introduce the Fantastic Four, the rest of the Celestial bodies, including Xandar and Nova? Or do you think that it's a really cool way to bring in the higher evolutionary when it comes to the mutants? You know, leave a comment, hit us up, let us know what you think. Again, we're excited. Loki's coming out soon. Again, don't forget there's a huge open world video game sale across many different platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam, Epic, you name it. It's out there. You guys go check them out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. To all the people that watch us and support us, we appreciate you guys. And we'll see you guys again next week, Friday at 9 p.m. here on Facebook. Our YouTube channel, which I don't know if anybody knows we have a YouTube channel, but I don't really promote it too much. And ChrisP on Twitch, ChrisP the Average Boys on Twitch. So thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate everybody out there. We appreciate the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys again next Friday, 9 p.m. live here on our podcast. Laters.